So everything that you call their free will is actually your state speaking through them. And now that's not about blame, because we know that blame is a trap and we're too intelligent for that here in this community. This is about empowerment. Now, the ancients had said, as within, so without, as we all know. But modern neuroscience also is saying that your brain decides before you do. So when someone is pulling away in that case, it's not a random act based on their free will in the way that we currently understand it. And so in this video, I'm going to prove how your state leads behavior with a real life client success story and case study breakdown, how her SP left essentially for no reason and came back for the same reason as a 2.0 version of himself, it would seem as well. I'm going to give you, on top of that, my sort of deep code framework to help you to get the people in your life to naturally conform to the version of you that feels great, confident, safe, chosen, steady. This is how you essentially manifest the ideal version of anyone in such a way that's never really taught in this community. So stay with me and stay till the end as well, because we're going to walk you through a really nice little simple 2-minute, if that, exercise, a state install exercise that we can do live together. So, yep, it is Friday. There's a hell of a lot to take in. Are you ready? Because this one, packed to the brim with juicy gems, as they all are. Grab your notebook or make your notes in the comments section below. All of my videos are packed up with juicy gems. That's why so many of you have been telling me you've been watching them like 5-6 times in some cases. That's why I was thinking, should I set up this whole podcast thing? Like, should I put some of my videos as a podcast so you can just play them? Does it matter? Does it make a difference? But I do believe you guys taking in the information in the way that you do and the level of information I share is, of course, why our success rates are so high. My goodness. I mean, I know I always say it, I don't gatekeep. I spend a lot of time with the community, with you guys here, with my one-to-one clients. I spend a hell of a lot of time. You know, my week is filled to the brim with responding to messages and hearing from you all and all the incredible feedback that you're giving me. Word is spreading. You've been emailing me. I've got people, my clients, telegramming me, WhatsApping me. I've got people who watch the channel making comments and sending me Instagrams. I've got viewers, clients, other coaches who have been asking to work with me. I've got a few public figures that I've had the absolute honor of working with, from Bollywood actresses to musicians, and a couple of TV personalities that I've had the honor of mentoring. All of you reporting incredible shifts, major movement. Some of you came to ask me about coaching, and then like a few days later were like, actually, I just got my success. Something just happened. It's all worked out because I was watching your hypnosis, or I was just watching your video and it all clicked for me. That's what I want to hear, right? So thank you, all of you, this is to all of you, and for sharing your success as well, because I've been feeling a wave of abundance. I know I said it in my last video. I put myself in the state of abundance. And that doesn't just mean money and whatever else. It means seeing all of you guys succeed. So let's take a moment to celebrate in that collective energy, because all of you are proving that this works. And here's to the road to success for all of us. So cheers to all of you at home. Sit back, relax, grab yourself a hot drink. I did it backwards there, didn't I? I should have said grab yourself a hot drink and then cheers. Yeah, Friday feeling. I had an early rise today. I had a few roof issues, and it's the thing about owning old property. So not too much sleep. Bear with me. Definitely need this today. Oh, that feels so good. Oh, I better put it there. It's a little bit precarious. So for those of you who were here with me last week, we had taken a deep dive look into how time is a construct of the mind and therefore an illusion. And we did a little experiment to prove it. So if time isn't real, then I thought to myself, yeah, if time isn't real, then what else isn't real? Like choice. Maybe choice also isn't real. And I delved into it in ways that I haven't done so up until this point. And I discovered that in 2008, roughly, there was a neuroscientist, John Dylan Haynes, and he had put people in an fMRI scanner, which tracks like the blood flow through the brain. And he was asking people to press a button, either the left or right button, just based on whenever they felt like it, based on whenever they choose to do so. Now, what was really shocking about this experiment was the fact that the computer was able to predict which button that these people were going to choose before they even knew it themselves. In fact, 7 seconds before. I know, 7 seconds. I thought to myself, that's actually quite a long time in the grand scheme of things, that they didn't even know what choice they were going to make, and yet this computer did. And that's because the mind had already made its decision. The subconscious already made the decision before the conscious mind actually caught up. Now, this translates to your state moves first, and therefore your choice comes as a manifestation of that state. It comes after. So we know that you don't manifest from your thinking brain. That's why your thoughts alone do not create. That's why we can think all day about amazing things and positive things, but many of us might still be living in a life of misery, or might still be struggling, or might still be hopeful of what might come to pass. And for years and years, things remain the same. No, it doesn't come from there. It comes from the deeper setting, the subconscious, the all mind, the all. And in a bit, I'm going to map all of this to your SP behavior so that you guys can really grasp what I'm trying to share with you. But I thought that was really fascinating. And so with that in mind, we know that an assumption in the subconscious fires first. And what you call my decision or their behavior is simply the body following the orders. The orders. So we're not manifesting from the brain. That's why the idea of neuroplasticity, although it's great, although it's part of it, is not the complete picture. We're manifesting from the field beneath all of that, the subconscious. So when we talk about free will in that case, with this in mind, we're not really talking about whether or not someone is able to pick if they want tea or coffee or biscuits, depending how you're feeling. But we're deciding like what we're talking about what decides the choice. You see what I mean? So we're not deciding. It's not about like, okay, I'm gonna have tea or coffee. No, what is making that choice? What decides that? What moves the story forward? We're going a level before the choice is even made, before the thoughts are even had. Now, the Upanishads had said, and I know I've stated this before, there is no second. There is no second. It means the universe isn't made up of separate parts, all in competition for control. That's why I say don't worry about third parties, or don't worry about other colleagues, or don't worry about, there is no competition. It's one consciousness, and it's refracted through billions of lenses, billions of people, billions and billions of different perceptions. And each of us is a viewpoint through which the infinite consciousness sees itself and experiences itself. So when you and your person are interacting with each other, try not to think of it as two different wills clashing. You know, think of it as we're one consciousness meeting each other, meeting itself, I should say. One consciousness meeting itself. That's what I meant to say. And what determines which version of them you meet isn't random. It's all about the state of consciousness that you're tuned into at that time. And I'm going to show you how to harness this power in more detail. So don't worry, it's all coming. Stick with me. But do you get this? I've quoted it before. It's a beautiful quote from Athena. She had once said, we don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. And Carl Jung had famously quoted as well that everyone or everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. And I always think about that, even when I get irritated or something, I'm just like, wait a minute, what is this saying about me? What am I seeing? What am I projecting? What story have I just told myself about this situation or about this person? So this was really fascinating, because I suppose the reason why I wanted to do a video about this topic of free will, we've talked about it before. There's numerous videos out there about they have no free will, but no one really takes the time to explain it in depth and detail. Now, we were talking last Tuesday. I want to demonstrate a little story for you. Last Tuesday on our live Q&A session on our Discord community, there's many people on there every week. You know, everyone gets to ask a question, but you get to notice how many people are actually manifesting specific people. Now, when I say specific people, for some of them, that is something to do with a better relationship with their boss or a better relationship with a family member. It's not just about lovers. And we've got this, there's this one client who was sharing in the group how she got her boss to do a complete 180 within a week. Now, when she came to me in the first instance, she was in a really low ebb, because this particular boss was making her life an absolute misery, an absolute nightmare. And she wanted to leave, but she was in a predicament where she couldn't really just up and leave. So I analyzed her situation in more depth. And of course, we reframed and we broke down her story during our call, because I wanted her to try and perceive the boss differently, to see another perception that would then soften how she was viewing things and therefore make it easier to shift her state with least resistance. This is normally how I work with people. As you guys know, I keep demonstrating it for you. So we changed the assumption that she had. In particular, we uncovered that one of the main assumptions that she had was around authority figures. And she also used Joseph Ally's assumption stacking, which is a really, really powerful method. I mean, many of you have been reporting incredible successes using that alone. For those of you who are new, Joseph Ally is my SP that I manifested, and happens to be another coach. He's been around for years. He's coached majority of the coaches you watch today. And he came up with this amazing, assumption stacking. So like I say, I'll put the link in the description box below in case you guys want to give it a shot. It's all freely available. She had said that she used that. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, hon, if you are watching this, was it the confidence hypnosis as well? I think you mentioned too, that we did in the workshop, that also helped you in terms of embodying the state of confidence. So she had done all these things. And she had relayed to us on our last live call that she got, I think she got congratulated, it was like for a second time, by this boss. Now, the thing is, if you knew this boss, if you knew what was happening in her situation, if you knew how miserable and stressful it was, to get 2 congratulations in close succession, 2 situations whereby the conversation was appreciative of her work rather than critical, you'll see how massive an achievement this was in a short amount of time. And we changed that lifelong assumption that she had about authority figures. We changed it within less than an hour of talking. And then she took a few days doing her assumption stacking, engaging in the hypnosis that we did on the group workshop, and let it settle. And reality reflected the entirety of her manifestation. I feel that she said it was within a week, wasn't it, hon? So even an assumption that you've had for decades of your life, if you have an assumption that you're undervalued at work, for example, you're going to keep magnetizing bosses and friends and teachers and parents who are going to play that part until you rewrite the assumption. And the moment that she shifted her state, the attitude changed. She went into work as a new person. She didn't try to change her boss. She didn't try to talk to her boss even. She just came into work as a different person. And she was no longer overwhelmed. She was no longer stressed. She was no longer anticipating her boss giving her more criticism. So she didn't have her defenses up. That gave a very different open energy. The boss could sense that, started to conform, started to react and reflect back a more softer approach. You know, like I say, congratulating rather than criticizing. So as you can see, it's not all woo-woo. It's very much about a selective perception. because your subconscious can edit reality to conform to what it already believes, and that's just what's happening all the time. So do you get what I'm saying? Does it make sense? Don't worry, there's going to be more to come, and it's going to get clearer. But that's what I mean when I'm saying that they don't have free will in your world. They only have the freedom to reflect the state that you're being, because the state I am being determines what I see, how I act, and therefore how they reflect and respond. So I'm going to demonstrate in this moment with my client's incredible success case study, and I'm going to break down what we did to get her to a place of success, to get her from a situation where she was ghosted and he was not interested to back committed, doting, loving, dedicated. And I'm going to break it down in a simple way so that you can all apply it. But I just want to address something very quickly that I've noticed. I don't know, I will say like 98% of people in the community get wrong, misunderstand. This is what trips them up, particularly when they're manifesting outcomes with specific people. So listen up. The same mechanism that makes your SP pull away from you, it's exactly the same mechanism that makes your boss ignore you, that makes your friend forget to include you. It's all one mechanism. This is what the data has been showing, Joseph's data as well. It goes from your assumption to then your projection to then your reflection. So it's along the lines of what Neville meant when he said that everyone and everything is yourself pushed out. A very misunderstood topic that Neville addresses. Everyone and everything is self pushed out. Now, I think a lot of people misconstrue that for they have no free will. They're my self pushed out. They're my mirror. So we forget that they have any sort of autonomy. We almost think of them as puppets. So free will, we have to think of it this way. They're not puppets. They are individuals, and free will does exist, but only within the story that you've authored. So this is how you think about it. And I've done a video on this in more detail. I'm going to link it in the description box if you're interested, because this was something that I've addressed a couple of times, and it's a concept that people still struggle to get their head around. Even some of the coaches that I've worked with that want to understand this better and are having their own SP issues, they still struggle to grasp it, because they've always taught, yes, they have no free will, but essentially did see it as some sort of puppet mastery. And this is why when, for example, you're in a great state and your SP comes back and they're not conformed and they're acting a certain way, or they say something that harms or hurts you, you're kind of like, wait a minute, what's happened? Why is this happening? And it totally derails you. It's because you're expecting them to act and behave a certain way from the get-go, but you've got to see it that, yes, they're playing the part that you've allocated, but they're doing it through improvisation. So that means they can ad-lib. This is why they do the unexpected. You know, I don't decide how they show up in every single way. You know, I can't decide that, yes, I'm imagining my end and I've embodied the fact that, you know, I'm the chosen one in this relationship. So I'm the one that they come back for. So we get together. But I then can't go from that to micromanaging the bridge of, yes, I want them to come back and they're going to apologize and they're going to take me for dinner and then we're going to do this. Because some people have done that. And then what they've accidentally ended up doing, and I will do a video on this because so many people are messing up their manifestations this way, they manifest piecemeal. They manifest that apology. They manifest that celebratory getting together again or dinner or hookup or whatever. And then bam, nothing else. Start again. We don't want that. You go to the end stage. You're manifesting from that end result. And if that means the way that your SP comes back might be that they're not fully conformed yet, or maybe they come back and they don't take you for a lavish dinner. Maybe you end up bumping into each other and it starts off, it's a very awkward conversation instead. Maybe that's how they come back. But the ending has already been dictated by your state anyway, so it doesn't matter. And that's why free will is not what you think that it is. Now, like I say, we all have local choice. We can pick the words, the timing, the tone that we use, but that deeper script, like who we're allowed to be in each other's story, that's dictated by the state. No free will, no choice. That's why, that's why we get to decide how people show up, because when we change our state, the same person who ignored you yesterday is going to unconsciously reach out for you, the following day or the following week. And it's not because you force them and you put a spell on them and this is some sort of crazy magic. Although many people do have been telling me lately, they were saying that, what is this sorcery you're using? Or my SP was saying that I put a spell on them. And that happened to my first SP as well when he came back. And I had another one say, you're my kryptonite or something, he called me. So it does happen, but that's not what's happening under the core of it. I'm choosing to occupy the state of the one who is loved and chosen, for example. I'm aligning with the one consciousness that is animating the both of us. And in that unity, the strongest assumption wins. My assumption, because it's my story. Theirs cannot override yours. We're always obsessed with what are they doing, what are they manifesting. Their story, it will not override yours, right? You're deciding. I never pay attention to what other people are manifesting, or if there's a third party. I don't even go there. I never have. It's never been an issue. I don't really care. That's not my concern, because I'm controlling self. That's the only thing I have power over. And my assumption shifts the whole narrative, changes the story, gives out a new story, I should say. So you ready for a little bit of a chill time and a little story time? How are you feeling? How are you feeling, Bean? I wanted to pick him up and give him a little cuddle and bring him to the screen. But this is the thing. He looks so painfully cute. And where he had, unfortunately, had a couple of front teeth extracted, his little tongue is always like hanging out. It's just always like that. So it looks even funnier when he's sleeping. Does anyone else have dogs that do that? They're such characters, aren't they? So let's have a bit more of our drink, because it's a little bit on the cooler side now. So let's get into my client's story. I'm going to call her Amelia. I think it's much easier that I give them some sort of name. Of course, that's not her real name. Everyone's privacy is protected. I will never, ever use real names. So don't be afraid to share your successes, because I don't give away private details. But we're going to go into her story and we're going to reveal how she got the new version of her SP. I'm going to call him Leo, for you Leos out there. But don't skip this part, because somewhere in her story, I guarantee that all of you are going to see your own. So Amelia, fantastic, as they all are. Thank you so much, darling, for sharing your successes, because she's had a few. Now, she's an amazing person, amazing manifestor. She's been on the journey for quite a while. Even before I met her, she knew about the law. And she managed to manifest her man back, like I say, amongst other things, after many months of separation and ghosting. And they've been happy together ever since last summer, which is, well, last summer, I think, is when he moved in. So they must have gotten together a bit before. But I'm going to share with you what we did with her to get him back. And I'm going to give you a state shift exercise as well that we're all going to do together so that you can start to apply this stuff. But Amelia met her person, Leo. Yeah, I am going to go with that name. And she met him when she was essentially at a real crossroads in her life. So she felt very lost and deeply insecure. She was suffering with a long-term health condition, which got her down. And she hasn't got a very good track record when it comes to men. So she's desperately doing what a lot of us do. We want love. We want to settle down. We want to share our life with someone. We're social creatures. She wanted to have a family. And of course, she had the additional pressure of being a woman in her later 30s and feeling like, okay, there's absolutely no one on the horizon. And this is becoming more and more of an impossibility for me. And then out of nowhere, the seas parted and Leo comes into her life. I can't actually remember how they met now. I did go over the notes, but memories evaded me. But she'd refer to him as basically like the missing piece in her life, because he was everything that she'd ever wanted in a partner. They had some crazy love for the same obscure foreign films. And I don't know, she'd got on with him in ways that she said that she had never really gotten on with anyone before, especially where she had quite interesting, quite niche things that she was interested in. And he seemed to be interested in similar things. So you can imagine when she meets him and she meets this guy who is unlike any other, and it's this instant chemistry, she has thought to herself, I've hit the jackpot here. And she's placed him up on the pedestal as the one. And so the relationship moved very, very well, actually moved quite quickly for both of them. They seem to be in the same sort of space and all seem to be going really, really well. Within weeks of getting to know each other, they are practically inseparable, and they're already having the deeper conversations about the future. You know, what kind of home do you want to live in? What kind of family life? I think he even wanted a dog, which was another thing that she really wanted to. So this was all fantastic. So this was all music to her. But you knew it, you all knew it, you all knew I was going to say but. Get the big but in the way. So yes, but underneath all of this, this beautiful story was a very old familiar pattern that was functioning in Amelia's subconscious. I forgot the name I gave her then. It was functioning in Amelia's subconscious. So it came across, I suppose, as a nagging voice that just kept making her question whether or not Leo was as committed as she was. She's starting to think, is this too good to be true? It's going really fast. It's going really easy. It's really flowing. And she knows from her past experiences that guys, they always end up leaving. They start off interested and then they end up leaving for whatever reason. And so she knows that there's a part of her that has to be prepared for this. Now, she didn't realize it on a conscious level, but she was broadcasting this fear constantly. She thought she was actually all right in the beginning, having the best time. But quite soon on, she was broadcasting a fear. And as they started to settle into life together more and more, he shifts to a much more, I would say, confident, relaxed energy, more laid back. He's getting more comfortable around her. And she interprets this stable nature not as a source of strength, but as emotional distance. She's looking at his calm, laid back demeanor as he's lacking in passion for me. And I think he's losing interest in me like they all do. She blaming her illness, blaming whatever she was blaming. So, of course, as a result of that, she was constantly seeking some form of reassurance. You know, do you love me? Do you love me as much as, you know, I love you and stuff? Are you sure that you're in this? Are you sure this is what you want? She would question his commitment, convinced, absolutely convinced that she was much more invested in this than he was, even though all of his actions demonstrated that he was all in. But she was so terrified of the potential ending of this story that she started writing it into their present, even when things were solid, even when things were going well. And that's what a lot of us do, you see. So after what seemed to be, because they went away on this great trip and she thought that she was changing things, she tried to tone down the arguments, tone down her anxiety. She's doing her meditations. She's doing her breathing exercises. Like I said, she knows of the law during this time. She's affirming more. And they have this great, what seems to be a lovely weekend away. And when they come back, her whole reality completely shatters. Leo sits her down and he basically says that this isn't working out for him and that he can't do it anymore. He had offered for them to keep some sort of connection, but he said that it would actually be better if they just part ways. He just wasn't sure about how he was feeling. Now, of course, she is anxious and upset, and she does what we all do. You know, she wants to have some answers. It's really confusing, right? You know, why the sudden change? Like, why is it we had a lovely weekend away? I thought everything was going well. What happened? It just seemed to blindside her. You know, she thought that everything was going better. They were not arguing as much. She was doing her affirmations. She was doing her breathing exercises. It's all meant to be going really well. She did her best not to project her fears anymore. But he, at that time, from what I understand, could not give a straight answer. And of course, that drove her mad, because her mind was doing what all of our minds do. It's scattered, trying to look for an answer. You know, what is this? What's happened? Did he meet someone else? Is it because did I put on weight? Is it my illness? But of course he said, it's not your fault. It's not you. It's me. It's the typical thing. And he had to break away. And so Amelia's world absolutely collapsed from this. And I think the most that she managed to do was she did reach out a couple of times, and he did respond out of politeness, but then ended up ghosting her in the end. So what happened? How many of you could pick up what was going on here? Those of you who watched enough of my case studies over and over again, you're getting pretty good at this. And I guess on the outside, when we're being objective looking in, without too much of the context, many of us could say that this was evidently a case where things maybe moved too quickly. This man has got cold feet, or maybe he's met someone else, or maybe he wasn't as into it, whatever. Now, when we look at it deeper through the lens of not just psychology, but the law of assumption, we see something else going on here. And let's see if you can spot it before I reveal all of it. But you see, Leo didn't just leave. He was the mirror in her life, reflecting her deepest unhealed wounds. You see, Amelia carried a lot of wounds with her. There was one particular assumption that we targeted, but there was a lot of other things that happened in her life. So we looked into it, and during our session, we were talking about her childhood, and we did an inner child hypnosis together, because I discovered, based on her language, something had happened that she wasn't able to process, hadn't let go of. And it was when she was about 8 years old, and her parents had gotten divorced, and her father just left. And after that, didn't really make the effort, to come see her, didn't make the effort for any sort of relationship, and just seemed to vanish from her life. So, and then as if that wasn't bad enough, her mother was not ever prioritizing Amelia. She was prioritizing her other partners after that. So Amelia was left to feel very secondary to everything and everyone. And so from that young age, she realized that I'm not important enough to be chosen. I'm not worth fighting or staying for. I'm not worth fighting or staying for. What a heavy burden to carry. To just think about that. So a big indicator of her sense of value as a person and partner came from that assumption. Because I knew straight away, like, her self-esteem was to the ground. She really didn't know her worth and value. And that's why when she met Leo, for example, she raised him up on a pedestal, because everyone has got to be above her. She's making herself second rate because of her assumption, her lack of worthiness, right? She's not worthy to be fought for. So even when he was showing up for her and he was essentially planning a future with her, her inner programming was running a completely different reality. Her reality looked completely different to what was actually happening with Leo in that instance. And it meant that from that perception, that reality that she was experiencing, she was behaving very differently. She was behaving as if the broken reality were a truth now, before it actually became one in the 3D. Now, we know, Neville has taught us that an assumption, if persisted, an assumption, though false, if persisted in, is going to harden into fact. And this is how she managed to turn what started off as a great connection with someone to an absolute, broken down nightmare. And when Leo couldn't give any solid reason for his change in feelings, he was telling the truth. He wasn't making excuses. He genuinely didn't know what had changed. His logical mind was absolutely baffled, but his subconscious mind had received this story from Amelia, this script, because we're all one, right? We're in constant communication. Now you get it. See, now you get what we mean by that. And so he had to leave. He couldn't give her a reason, because the reason didn't really belong to him in the way that we think that it did. He had to leave the version of her who wasn't worth fighting for. Do you see it now? Now, like I say, Amelia, she's known about the law for a while, and it was frustrating for her because understandably she had felt that she was working on her patterns for the longest times, subliminal tapes, meditations, affirmations, but none of them had impacted her at the subconscious programming level, only the conscious mind. And this was so evident from the way that she was talking to me and her language, because after 24 years of studying these esoteric teachings and studying different modalities, particularly I really liked cognitive behavioral therapy, neurolinguistic programming, and hypnosis. They were my favorites. But after doing that, when I'm speaking to people, like I say, I hear their code through their language, and it's really evident to me when they're saying one thing and thinking through the conscious mind, but then when they're speaking through the subconscious and actually feeling something completely different. It's always obvious, even if they're trying to lie or trying to suppress, or they've maybe on the surface level managed to convince themselves of something, what's coming through on the subconscious can often be very, very different. And that's why they see these very inconsistent results, if any results at all. So we did what we always do, and we challenged her key assumptions. And as she changed, really strange things started to happen. I'm going to share in more detail how to challenge the baseline assumption, by the way, because I'm going to share it all with you here. But first, I want to tell you what incredible things started to unfold for her next. Now, I know that many of you have been on the SP journey. You've had this happen before. How many of you have had this whereby you're manifesting a specific person and then suddenly you've got exes and random people that you haven't thought about for the longest time suddenly coming into the fray, showing you interest, or even strangers? Suddenly everyone's interested to date you, to get to know you. How many? Hands up. This happened to me numerous times as well, So she had someone from, I think it was about like 6 years ago, message her out of the blue, apologizing and basically saying that, he realized that she was the best thing that ever happened to him. And he was really regretful for the way that he treated her. So that was really, really nice for her. There was also something in relation to her health. There was an amazing treatment that she had discovered through someone random that she just got talking to, because another manifestation of hers was that she makes more friends in the manifestation community, and she's made some incredible ones. But I think it was through a conversation with one of them that she discovered this treatment that she could use for her condition. And this treatment has given her a new lease of life, which is essentially all she really wanted, just to be free of some of these, chronic sort of debilitating experiences she would have as a result of this condition. Another incredible thing that she had shared in her message was that she had won this legal battle against her old employer, and she won 60,000, I think it's dollars. Would it be your currency? So she established new friends, like I said. She established better health for herself. She's established money. She's become, in this moment, the version of herself that she would want Leo to meet. And so the universe does what it always does very perfectly. It's orchestrated all the events so that one day Leo and her managed to bump into each other just randomly on the train. Now, it's not some magical meetup after all this time of no contact. No, he went ghost, right? It was all very, very painful, don't forget. So when they met up, yeah, it was awkward. It was smiles. It was polite conversation, but it was nothing exciting. Perhaps, if anything, it was probably a little bit deflating. A bit anticlimactic, It's not like the Hollywood movies, right? Running into each other's arms and embrace and everything is great. No, it was a very awkward exchange. But Leo did message her afterwards. Again, nothing major, nothing alluding to getting back together. I don't even think that was really discussed. But what she has said is that he moved in. He's moved in now since last summer. So things were going really, really well. what had happened, interestingly enough, is that the manifestation that she had set in terms of her financial abundance, I think the bridge for that started to intertwine with the bridge for her ASP. Because with this legal situation she had going on, the reason that her and her SP, met up, exchanged a few messages, and then are exchanging more is because he was actually helping her through this legal case. So he was playing a role with that as well. And all this extra time that they are spending with each other, talking to each other, dealing with the legal paperwork, which, let's face it, is not a romantic get-together, but for them it just brought everything together so perfectly, so naturally, until they decided to give it another shot, until they just found themselves together and now find themselves living together. So congratulations to you, Han, to you both, and Coco Bean. Congratulations to you both. And I'm just so related. But this is how things can just turn around. So let's do a little breakdown of what happens so that you guys can apply it too. Number one is to find out your core assumptions. Now, for me, like I say, I suppose because of the modalities I'd studied, it's all very language-based, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnosis, all about use of language. So people often wonder themselves, well, how can I find my hidden assumptions, especially if they're hidden, they're so subconscious. And I know that can be that can be a challenging thing. But the best way to do it is think back to whether it's, is it career? Is it something to do with a boss? Is it something to do with love? Is it something to do with, and think of your past manifestations and what sort of patterns have you noticed in your life? Look at your 3D reality at the moment to unveil to you what those hidden assumptions are. And that's a fantastic way to find out. I personally like to use language, and I often say to you guys, when you comment, read back what you've said in your comments. Analyze your language. Your assumptions are there screaming out half the time. It can be really, really evident through the words that we say, because even with Amelia, even with our calls, the way she was speaking, it's like, yeah, I'm always the one who's making more effort. I'm more invested. Oh, people always leave. Yeah, I need proof. She'd make these throwaway comments through the subconscious, and they are her identity statements. So for you guys, just pay a bit more attention when you're chatting away. What are you saying? Or look at your pattern to find out what are those identity statements. Once you unveil those, you can start stacking the opposite assumptions through Joseph's assumption stacking method. So for Amelia, like I say, her core assumption was what? I'm not worth fighting for or staying for. So, okay, we've done that. We've analyzed the language, or we've analyzed our 3D. We've extracted the main key assumptions. You can stack some opposing assumptions now against it. Or you can do the following. So with her, okay, yeah, not worth staying for. So you can have the reality where she's not worth staying for. That very much exists. But the reality where she is worth staying for is also in existence now. She has a lot of evidence of the old reality. Her dad leaving and not wanting anything to really do with her, not fighting to see her, not even caring. She's got exes who just withdrew and never really came back, didn't really seem to care. She sought reassurance from Leo, and he goes and does the same thing, right? But the evidence where she is worth staying for, she is worth fighting for. Okay, well, you've got that ex that came back. Okay, you've got Leo who essentially wanted the same things. I think you were even talking about, wasn't there talk about marriage and stuff like that, or getting a place together, having a dog together? This is like long-term planning, right? Think about these sorts of things, bring them in, because what's going to happen is when you start to challenge your old assumptions, you're going to see that your belief was never 100% true. Even though we talk like it is an absolute truth, like they always leave and I never get what I want. We speak like that, like it's an absolute truth. But when you start to break it down, it never really is. And you can see that if you can find moments to disconfirm those old beliefs. If you can find at least 3, that's going to be great. That means this code, this assumption is going to be easily hacked. And the more that you can stack up, the less resistance you're going to have. And that's why I've got clients who, you guys know, I change your state during the call. You can have those assumptions for decades, for all of your life, and you can change it super quick like that and feel more at home with it and convinced with it. Yes. So we might have to maintain that state for a while before it becomes natural. But in order to change the assumption at the root, it doesn't take that long. It's not as hard as people think that it is if you use the right tools. And this is what I'm showing you here, right? No holding back. Now we can do an assumption challenge, and I'm going to take you through the exercise that I promised I was going to show you. Because like I say, you challenge the absolute. Challenge it from, oh my God, no one ever fights for me, everyone leaves, to people have fought for me and people stay consistently. Create a whole new assumption. And with that, we're going to make that new assumption the absolute in my life. So I'm going to say it to myself like it's an absolute. And I'm going to say to myself, so I want all of you guys to do this, to engage with this actually. Just get into a relaxed state. And because you've already worked on your assumptions like I've listed out to you here, now you're going to say to yourself, okay, when I catch myself being whatever your old assumption is, whatever your old identity is. So in her case, when I catch myself being, I'm not worthy, they don't fight for me. When I catch myself being that, I install the new identity. Okay, no, I am worthy of staying. They do fight for me. People stay consistently. And I hold that and I just hold on to it for about 60 seconds as if it was normal. But the way that I do that is I feel into that assumption. Perhaps in that moment, I'm imagining what it's like being that I am actually worthy of being chosen, that people do stay for me. I mean, if I've already done that exercise where I've just done the comparison from, okay, there's the evidence of the old life, but here's the evidence of the new, that's going to make it so much easier for me to embody and imagine the new identity, the new assumption. Let me feel at home with that. Think what you would think and see what you would see and feel what you would feel at the time. What would you smell, taste, touch? Get yourself immersed in that. Really go into that, breathe into that. You only need to hold it for a few seconds. That's it. You'll notice that your shoulders drop. Allow yourself to just breathe slower. Let your body catch up with this assumption. Because we know body and everything is a little bit delayed. And that's how you begin to overwrite this code in real time. Does that help? Does that make sense? I really hope that it does. And I hope that you enjoyed this video and feel inspired. Like I say, keep on sharing your incredible successes. Thank you to all of you who are emailing me still for one-to-one consultations. Please check your spam folders. I was really blitzing my emails. I was getting through quite well. I was getting through quite a few of them, but maybe some of my responses go to spam. So check them. And if you haven't heard from me within 5 days, you can message me again. But I'm trying my best to keep on top. It's like hundreds of you. Share your success stories. I love you guys. Keep going strong. You're doing incredibly well. Even if you feel like you're not, or you feel like nothing's happening, remember that's not the case. There's so much more happening than you even realize. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.